do you want to start with a quick intro into who you are and what you do?
Well, definitely. Really excited to share with everyone here. I'm James Zhang. I'm the strategic advisor to STSS, Sharps Technology. Started my career in crypto after graduating comp sci at NYU. Ran a fund for 4 years, anywhere from venture to pre-IPO deals. Got into essentially 2021, raised $40 venture funding led by Paradigm for Jambo, solving the Web3 mobile payments part. Essentially, if crypto's going mobile, why are we building the walled gardens of Google and Apple? Built our smartphone, sold over 900,000 phones last year, launched our token on Solana earlier this year. I say all this to say the team is very native Solana native founders, and really excited to share and be this bridge, hopefully, to getting Solana out to Wall Street.
Sorry, I had it first. My headphone got like stuck in my my chair for a second, so I had to fix that. But dude, that's awesome. Thanks for the intro. I mean, you guys are on fire. Solana narrative is really picking up. I mean, can you like paint the picture on what the sentiment in the scene is like in DATs in these treasury companies right now? Like, where are we in just this whole meta, this whole cycle, if you will?
I'll say this, to be honest, for everyone, a lot of this meta started 6 months ago. And the V1 of a lot of these DATs is big SPACs, right? You heard of the pro caps, you heard of the CPs, a lot of big D SPACs, billion in funding, and you are essentially have a year in the vehicle lockup and etc. So this is then evolved into more pipe structurings where it's a lot more nimble of a structure. And what is all of this anyways? You're looking at an asset class. That asset class that obviously we've identified as Solana. And to give institutional access to actually able to access that. For me and you and probably everyone on the stream, we can just buy Solana right now on chain. But for many funds, accredited investors and out there, getting out the echo chambers of CT and crypto capital, is they might have to identify tools that are what they use on a daily basis, like stocks and ETFs. So essentially, DATs is providing that access. Now, all you're doing is raising a private round from very accredited investors that believe in your strategy, and it's called a PIPE. And you identify a public vehicle on the NASDAQ, and in this sense for us is Sharps Technology, that is extremely excited of this direction, incorporating the Solana treasury strategy into the business. And you essentially take this pipe and into this NASDAQ vehicle as your entire strategy. And this essentially can be done with a team that's very well versed on it. So the cycle that we are at right now, honestly, has changed a lot as of 2 months ago. Once this company, BitMine, came out, right? I'm sure everyone's looked at BitMine, and this is actually what's caught a lot of attention for retail and traditional finance and paying attention to it. What BitMine did is very simple. They raised $250 million in the PIPE round, the private round, at $4.50 a share. And 1 week later was able to raise $2 billion at $38 a share, literally 8 to 9x of your private round 1 week after. And the reason you're able to do that is through certain financial tools that your vehicle should have when you're very well prepared in your structuring, such as an ATM. You're at the market facility, meaning you're able to sell shares at their fair market value. So thus, you've accretively not only sold shares, generated cash, use that cash to increase your asset per share. And in this case, for them is Ethereum, for us, Solana. So what we've done here for Sharps Technology is raised $411 million in funding in the PIPE round last week, $6.50 a share. And this week is where we are able to tap the ATM and have bought all the Solana from the cash that we have raised over that time period. So from Thursday, essentially, till earlier this week. And all of this is done through public filings, you file your 8K and etc. So that actually public hedge funds and accredited investors that trade stocks can understand it and get access into Solana.
Why do you think BitMine was able to raise so much money?
Truthfully, it's a mix of many things, but a huge component to it is number one, their structuring, and number two, their face, Tom Lee, right? Because if you look at it on one end is Tom Lee's platform that gives him the voice here, that brought up a lot of volatility, etc. But most importantly is what came out before BitMine, SharpLink, SBET, literally done by a co-founder of Ethereum. But since BitMine has come out, just talking pure stats, I think they've way eclipsed. And if you look at the volume, they essentially hold about 70% of volume for Ethereum. SharpLink holds maybe about 30% volume. BitMine has accumulated about 1.5% above Ethereum already. Sharpling maybe has half of that. And I'm just going off very rough numbers.
Yeah.
And Tom Lee, as of a month before BitMine, has often research on many different parts of crypto and L1s, at Fundstrat. And the market has recepted it better in mind than Sharplink because of how readily prepared the structuring is, able to hit the at the market facility, raise more cash very accretively and quickly, and then raise your underlying asset per share.
How much of this is Tom Lee is just a better face on CNBC than Joe Lubin?
I mean, I think you know this better than anyone. It really is who's saying it than
Yeah.
what you're saying, right? He's built in that inherent trust to the entire channel and folks that listen to him over the years, and then now is able to share something. And I think Joe Lubin is also a great speaker. It's really not about, I think, a PvP situation. End of the day, it is about getting that message across to Wall Street. If you look at Ethereum flows, it was one of the most contrarian bets just maybe a year ago, and for many parts through the cycle. But since then, I think since the ATs have launched, have brought in more than 10 billion of flows into Ethereum.
Ugh.
Solana has been lagging behind a bit. There's obvious many talks of the sailor of Solana. So really the narrative shaping is very important of getting out the echo chamber and actually to Wall Street to be able to bring in more flows and new net capital.
Do you see yourself as the sailor of Solana?
And I have to answer yes to this question. We're here to essentially evangelize Solana. And end of the day, it's, rising tide lifts all ships. And for us, it's not only are we super bullish on the asset class as being founders in the ecosystem for multiple years and pretty much at every conference, but actually seeing that we might have an advantage on the structuring and capital market side, and our voice might be heard to actually get this message out there.
So what percent of circulating SOL do you guys currently have?
I would say about 0.4, 0.5%.
Okay.
We've hold a bit north of $2 million of SOL, which we've saying bought in from the entire cash raise into SOL the 4 days after the raise.
And so are you currently the biggest SOL DAT that exists?
Yep. Yes. So we are currently the largest Solana DAT. And I will say this, a lot of it is a function of how fast you come out the gate to establish that mindshare and to show that next new investor what you're doing. Because for the investor is, okay, I can't own Solana, I'm bullish on it, so I need to go buy the stock. That essentially all it does is provide me access to access more Solana and increasing my Solana per share metric faster than if I just bought Solana myself. Now, if this company then goes and raises all this cash, but doesn't quickly, aggressively accumulate Solana, then it sort of has this distortion to actually what you're presenting to retail. And equity traders really like when a management team is really focused and clear on executing one strategy. And that's what we're trying to convey here, that not only is it accumulating SOL, but whenever at accretion levels, we can raise cash to buy more SOL. That is our main goal.
By the way, you said 2 million SOL, not $2 million of SOL, right? Or $2 million?
No, 2 million, north of 2 million Solana.
Yeah,
we raised
okay.
in total equity $411 million of cash, and actually up to 1 billion of aggregate proceeds if all warrants are exercised.
Okay, someone in the chat was like, only $2 million. I'm like, nah. I'm almost I'm positive it's 2 million SOL. Why?
Yeah, I would actually refer folks to look at, sorry not to cut you off, a website, solanastrategicreserve.org. That is a research that's been put up by Solana Foundation themselves on showing more transparency on the various public companies that hold SOL and this moves.
Why does it feel like Solana has been lagging in this DAT treasury company race behind Ethereum and Bitcoin?
Let's look at some simple facts. Bitcoin is 16, 17 years old. Ethereum's 11 years old. Solana is 4.5, 5 years old.
Okay.
In this period of time, Bitcoin has over 40 ETFs. Ethereum has 21 ETFs. Solana currently has more than 5 ETFs that are pending, which many folks are very confident and advantageous that they might get approved in Q4, right? Now, if you pair a simple treasury story with quick accumulation of a rapidly growing asset class, then it's a no-brainer that institutional capital, you're essentially bridging that world from traditional markets with digital assets. So the simple answer, honestly, is quantitatively, Solana hasn't been enough time out. For those of us that are in the industry, we understand that Solana is 4,000 TPS, did 900 million revenue last quarter, 9 billion transactions quarterly, and it's probably, I think, number one in developer growth, number one in chain revenue. So it's obvious, like if there's new talent coming into the industry, from very great spaces, they're most likely going to deploy their app on Solana because that's where liquidity and users are. So all we are doing is not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just trying to give more access to Solana, to institutional capital that wants to come in and hopefully be able to evangelize and bring the story out to Wall Street and traditional finance.
That's fair. Honestly, the numbers, that is fair. Comparing Sol to the other two. Okay, I have a question for you. Like, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks ago, I had this guy Avi Feldman come on the stream. Maybe you're familiar with him from 1000X.
My guy.
Yeah, 1000X Pod. He does it with Jonah. Really sharp guys. And I was asking him this question, which I'll ask you after. But I basically was saying, like, look, everyone on Twitter, especially the institutional side, has been shoving this narrative of you need to be playing the DAT game down everyone's throats. And I feel like I've been on it from early days since David Bailey from Nakamoto came on the stream, I don't know, 3 months ago and told us to pay attention to these. And it felt like at no point did I have an opportunity to make money in any of these things, really. And he said that the secret that nobody wants to say, especially for Solana, is that it's an institutional game only, and these Sol DATs, someone asked what's a DAT, Digital Asset Treasury, are basically buying locked Sol, so these Solana investors can get exit liquidity, and there's no open market buying of anything. There's no new buy pressure. The whole purpose for these Solana DATs is to buy locked Sol and give investors an out. Like, is that happening? Is that a thing? Is that going on? Like, what's your take on that?
Oh, great question. I'll put it this way. Where were we with Bitcoin 5 years ago? Bitcoin crashing down to 3K, 4K levels during COVID. No institution is really talking about it. Fidelity, Vanguard, BlackRock were definitely not offering ETFs. And the president was most definitely not launching a token on said chain we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And
Fair.
I think a lot of this, this you see my response here going is taking time. But at the same time, let's look at Solana and the echo chambers. It really hasn't gone out. If we look at let's talk about the question of taking in kind. If you accept tokens, because many deals is what is the cash going to be used for? The cash is used to accumulate as cheap Solana or asset as possible so that you can increase various metrics from your MNAV premium to your asset per share. Now, if you can already accumulate a lot of these assets that a treasury is basically never selling. So for the foundation, they're also very happy because we're contributing to something that essentially is like a token burn. And the perfect part of this mechanism is obviously you can sell your underlying asset. We can sell our Solana if our NAV touches close to 1x and buy back shares, right? To instill confidence to our shareholders, to shareholders of Sharps. And then vice versa, when your share is ripping, like BitMine, they're able to capture the volatility and sell shares, get cash, and buy your underlying asset and increase your metrics. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy and flywheel. Now, when you're taking in kind, you're taking the actual Solana, you are essentially giving your investors a tax break because they do not need to pay taxes when you essentially contribute your token in. And I think this is the biggest part that has been misconcepted in this entire trade is that you're taking flows away through a DAT from the underlying asset, but it's actually the exact opposite because it acts as a token burn economically for it. Solana obviously has inflation and you have the FTX overhang of locked Sol. But where is that locked Sol vest and how much is left out there, right? Up till 2028 and with monthly vests. So obviously there is a lot more incentivization for, I think, funds that have locked Sol and Solana to contribute, not only from the tax perspective, but also to believe in the DAT trade. But at the end of the day, that cash is used to buy your Solana on the open market and to hoard more and more supply. So I'm sure we're going to get to it on the stream, but even a lot more capital that's coming in. Don't know exactly how they're thinking about it, but I would assume a lot portion is used to accumulate the cheapest Sol.
Okay, so basically, yes, because locked Sol is cheaper, you're not going to sell it anyways. You're just like hammering David Sachs like seed bags, basically.
Yeah. Well, if you're holding onto the Sol, like ask this, if you can accumulate 1 mil Solana, just 1 mil Solana tokens at a price of say 30% discounted from right now that you won't sell in a year. And even if you were going to sell, the vast majority of your profile is still liquid Sol that you sell very easily. Would you increase your Solana holdings and lower the amount that you could sell or would you still buy all market price, potentially moving up the market and hold a lot less Solana from just buying? So I think it's a question of strategy, and that's why you see these various structures. And from honestly, you're super early. If you're talking David Bailey, I think I actually remember that stream, and from those days, right? They're also very different structures from BitMine. They did a reverse takeover. BitMine is the pipe. But I think since then, investors and retail also have gone smarter on what they're looking for, and what they're looking for should be the components of you can accretively raise cash to buy your asset per share, and then you're not taking on too much leverage, so you're never forced seller. And these two components are generally seen in a pipe structuring and with an ATM in place.
Okay, I mean, look, that's fair, right? Your goal is to acquire as much SOL as possible, or as much of the underlying assets as possible with the capital that you have allocated to you. Here's a question, and I'm honestly just genuinely curious, because I'm obviously not the most technical with this financial instrument, but I've talked to enough people that I'm starting to understand it. But okay, so say you get to a spot where most of your underlying is locked Solana, and I don't know what the unlocks look like, but say you're unlocked for a year. You're locked for a year plus on the majority of your holdings. Not you, but just general hypothetical. You're locked for a year plus on the majority of your Solana holdings. Market crashes. You're trading negative to like 1 MNAV, and you're forced to liquidate to buy stock back. But all of your assets are locked and you can't liquidate. Like, what happens then?
Capital markets happen. You're going to get acquired by a much larger vehicle. I think at the end of the day, for most of these asset classes, especially in the largest ones, it's going to play out to potentially two winners, right? There's many S&P 500 ETFs, but we pretty much only use two. Same, you look at what's been playing out in Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Ethereum, BitMine, SBET probably own 70-30% mind share and volume. And I truthfully think that's how it's going to play out for many of the other assets, and you're going to consolidate the smaller players. It's easily said in conception, but if you really think about it, like you said, if you have a lot of lock tokens, the market crashes 30-40%, which is honestly a very healthy correction in many such cases. And we've been through multiple of these if you've been in the space of 17. And what are you going to do? You're most likely going to consolidate by a larger player and bought out. So you never want to be in that position where you have leverage, which is why we never did a convert round. We did the largest equity raise, and all of our holdings is mostly liquid SOL, and just to never take on above that leverage level. So
I have this vision that if it does happen and everyone's trading like under 1 MNAV, Saylor's just gonna come by every ETH treasury company, maybe other than Tom Lead, every SOL, floor it, and just hammer Bitcoin. It would be like a legendary day on CT. Probably bad for the market, but it would be like a fun day on CT. So I guess we'll see. So I think it was this morning, Kyle Samani from Multicoin, who's also come on the stream, really sharp guy, announced Solana DAT. How does that change what you guys are doing, and how does that change the scene of these treasury companies largely?
One of the sharpest and earliest guys in Solana. I think it's probably one of the best things for the industry and for Solana as a whole that he's actually coming in and launching this. The framing mental model here isn't which DAT are you going to beat, the incumbent, the newcomers, etc. There will always be new. It's open public markets. Anyone can set up vehicles. It's about how well that person can communicate outside of the crypto world, right? Just like when we're sitting in New York right now, it feels like the center of the world is here in New York. The capital markets are here, but there's various pockets of capital around the world. There's a lot in Asia. You catch Asia bid, etc. We understand, especially in crypto, Hong Kong, Korean, Chinese exchanges are. For that champion to come in and constantly be echoing out the message of Solana, a succinct way that Wall Street can understand. And generally, if you've run a fund as successfully as that, then you will know how to articulate that. So we're actually very, very glad. And, I heard that's a lot of cash raised. So I think this will be a lot of open net buying pressure for Solana as well. And if you look at it, Solana at 100, something bill market cap, 1-2 bill buying pressure is going to move the needle a lot more than for Ethereum. That's 5x, or Bitcoin's a lot even more. So, and if you look at the models of how BitMine structured it, right, that has outperformed the North Star in pretty much every model, is they only did a 250 mil cash pipe, right? Because for every net new dollar that you do, it's going to be a much larger ATM that you raise on the public market to move that needle of MNAV premium for your vehicle, which is also why we strategically looked at the amount that we raised at. because it's a good blend. We think coming out as already the largest, and then giving us that economics to be able to grow a lot faster.
So most people see also I think Kyle is good for the space in the sense that he's extremely articulate. He's a well-known face. He could fucking go on CNBC and fire up some, millennial host that is a normie. So a lot of people see this announcement and it means nothing to them. They're like, okay, what? Another treasury company? Does this mean, I don't know what the number raised is. I'm sure you do, but can't disclose. Maybe it was public. If it was public, say it, but I don't know. But what does this actually mean for the market? Does this mean that Kyle Samani is coming in with $500 million and just twapping Sol Spot? And we're going to get insane buy pressure that wasn't like $500 million and more buy pressure. What does it actually mean for the market now that Kyle has entered the scene?
Actually, I haven't heard of the deal on the private side as much. I've pretty much just seen the morning news as well. And I think they'll disclose it around a bill raise. Well, if you can do $1 billion of cash and TWAPing into Solana, you're exactly right. I think that's possibly going to move the market a bit. They're obviously very sophisticated guys working with Galaxy and Jump, and most likely going to have ways to, abstract the order book to not let everyone know it's exactly who's coming at this time, unlike on Hyperliquid. So I think it's most definitely a net positive here. And if we can see more Solana just out there, like we just recorded at Sharps on the NYSE floor Tuesday morning interview that's getting aired on Bloomberg tonight, actually 9:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Congrats.
Like these are the sort of coverages that you really need, and to hop on various channels outside, ABC, NBC, Fox, Bloomberg, et cetera. So I think these are some of the most important things to actually address for DAT and for as a whole. And I completely understand. A lot of folks is like, this has nothing to do with me. Guys that buy tokens, you buy tokens. Guys that buy stocks, you buy stocks. It's actually a rare merge of both worlds. I think that's also a misconception where most people think that crypto traders all trade equities and equity traders are actually all overlapping into crypto. So I think, for example, you're the number one stream, in my opinion, right? Live stream in Solana in the crypto space. For real, I've seen a lot of your stream. We'll go talk about it offline later. Throughout last year, meme coin cycle, a lot of the stuff that you said actually helped me a lot too. But in the traditional finance world, right, we probably can't name what's the top live stream out there, or that all TMT traders and guys, like who is a new net buyer of these DATs to come into Solana? It's not going to be the hedge fund that just trades traditional finance stocks. They might just go buy an ETF because they need to be safer. It's the guys that traded Robinhood, Circle, fintech stocks, Figment that bought 100 mil Bitcoin, guys that trade that are a lot more risk on, to then understand, okay, I can now own this underlying asset and take a position as we're moving into this digital age. So like literally you have the largest folks offering access to crypto now, digital assets, from Fidelity, BlackRock. BlackRock's IBIT ETF did more flows for Bitcoin than its S&P 500 ETF. I think that speaks volumes to what's happening in the traditional world. You have entire nation states lining up to print currency, to establish reserves of this, limited supply tokens, and it's still only 15 years old-ish, right? You take Solana right now, 4.5 years old, and you see the statistics if you truly understand a lot of the technicalities. But again, do you really want to iterate all these technicalities, at 4,000 TPS, Alpenglow, and all of these, finality, like sort of things to Wall Street? Maybe not. They might not understand it. I don't think even a lot of folks just trading on Solana understand it as much. But if you can share how much revenue is done, 900 million last quarter, that's hard numbers. What companies generate 900 million revenue in a quarter, even in the real world?
First of all, thank you. That was sick. Second of all, it's funny, not even a question here, just a thought. It's funny that all the institutional guys and in equities, anything that mentions crypto is just getting slammed. People are you can't get enough of it. No one can get enough of it. It's the fucking treasury company super cycle. No one can get a Circle IPO. No one can get enough of any of these assets. And then you zoom in max frame on Sol on chain, and yes, there's a couple things that are doing well today. We were talking about pumps doing well, Hyperliquid's doing well. The Pokemon card stuff is relatively exciting, but people the flows have not made it all the way down to Sol on chain yet at all. I mean, it feels like at all, right? We're substantially lower and less boring and less exciting than we were in even the lows of 2024. And the flows have not made it down. Is this institutional DAT bid going to find its way to Sol on chain? How do you think about that?
I think that's going to be a function of sharing a lot around staking yield. because staking yield, even most vanilla at 7%, if you don't go into GTO MEV fees, taking GTO as collateral to OTC desks to generate more yield generating strategies, even 7% is a huge number for, say, $1 billion company. You're generating 70 million of revenue. You get a lot of earnings on that, quarterly earnings calls, etc. Like I said, I think you have to revert in putting this information condensed into a way that Wall Street and equity traders, Robinhood equity traders can understand. And that might be revenue numbers, that might be the staking yield, understanding that, and that comes as forms of earnings. And potentially that will bring it on chain. But I think it's going to take a lot of effort from, truthfully, a lot of gateways into Solana as well, from maybe the guys at Jupiter, the maybe guys at Jito, the on-chain products that they can create to actually abstract the UI to be a lot easier for the actual user to use, super important.
So do you think Sol plays catch up now? Like, I'm not asking you to give me a, ETH 20K price target, but do you have a target or some metrics in mind for how Sol plays catch up here over the next year?
I speak with a bunch of, as my job, I have to speak with a lot of institutional fund managers, and what that can trickle anywhere from family office, in Asia to the US to Europe to institutional funds, varies from 100 mil to billions in size. And I can tell you confidently that Solana is the name that's being talked about even more than I would say ETH right now. And why is that? Human psychology. Bitcoin is a shiny object. Boom, you've already had MicroSaylor, you had all the big de-SPACs, everything's done in Bitcoin. Then let's trickle down. The next asset that everyone understands and has seen more is Ethereum. So now we share the Ethereum narrative, and apparently, Genius Stack, stable coins, every dollar revenue is generated on Ethereum now based on how the flows are coming in. But now Ethereum has sort of already been a few months. Tom Lee has really killed it, all respect. But what is the new flavor? Who's the next one? What's the next big thing? And this is finance. And Solana, every metric, every lineup is there. And I think that's why there's been so much anticipation for that sailor of Sol, because you need that person to spark a run. And Solana doesn't need much help to spark. All the metrics are there. We just need to be given a chance at the table.
I feel like this is how it always plays out. We bottom at peak nihilism, and then people are like, okay, nothing matters but Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin legs, and you're like, okay, I need more risk. ETH, World Computer, ultrasound money, it's awesome. Then you're like, okay, I need more risk. And then it's like, yes, Solana, obviously app, consumer chain, app thesis, unlimited TPS. And then next we're going to have Doge, DAT, and whatnot. But it feels like Solana is obviously the underloved out of the three. And it's funny because go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, infrastructure is generally harder to understand and takes longer to adopt. Right, if you frame it in this way, 10 years ago, you buy Bitcoin and NVIDIA, you log off, you do better than everyone. Yeah. Well, today, Bitcoin is digital gold, and that's why the bid is there. Solana is that digital infrastructure, right? And, I would argue if people frame it as Bitcoin's digital gold, Ethereum is digital oil, then Solana might be silicon, right? That's how Silicon Valley started, the underlying actual needed for all microchip processors and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's around framing. And if Solana's the infrastructure, I hope that people can come in and understand some of the fastest apps to grow to 100 mil revenue is all on Solana, like Photon, Axiom, Pump.
Yeah.
No matter you love it or hate it, that's facts.
Have you said that line before? That was awesome.
I don't think so.
You should, you should remember that, write that one down and use that again. That was awesome. What's funny is yeah, it is all fucking happening on Solana. This is a complete off topic of DATs and whatnot, but there's this guy on Twitter, Spec. He's this AI guy. I said he was his Twitter after, and he talks about this a lot. It's it feels pretty obvious and preordained that this infinite institutional venture bid into AI is locally topped, and that money is going to flow back into crypto. And you look at the businesses in crypto on Solana, and it's yeah, Axiom fucking makes $1 million a day. Hyperliquid makes $2 million a day. Pump Fund makes $1 million, $2 million a day. Some of the fastest growing unicorns in tech history. And it's bro, Axiom's a YC company. They make $1 million a day, and they won't talk about it. And it's why? Is it because they don't fit the AI narrative? Unclear. Is it because crypto is risky to talk about? Obviously, those barriers are being beaten down. Well, Axiom is a Y Combinator company. Nobody talks about it, and it's just I feel like we're finally hitting this consumer thesis in crypto, and it's all happening on Solana, and it's happening fast, and these companies are fucking printing. Like you know more about the venture side than I do, obviously, but these companies are massive, bro. Pump Fund is massive. It's all happening on Sol. It's happening nowhere else, and it's that's why like I'm still primarily Sol on chain, not really by choice, just because that's where all the excitement is. And it's still hard to fathom how Sol is like $200, but you have to imagine that it's a case of it's lagging rather than that was the top at Trump. You know what I mean?
Right. I think it's just easy to put new technologies down than to highlight its advantages. Like, what does a consumer chain even mean, right? Oh, meme coin chain, consumer chain. I promise you, every viewer that's watching the stream, we open their phone, that app behind you, the logo behind you right now, Phantom, is probably going to be on their phone,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what, isn't that what it's supposed to be? Having consumers use your product, mobile, that's where crypto and everything is going. But somehow we want to, media wants to highlight all the losses that happen in meme coins, et cetera. We're not saying that didn't happen. It's obvious. There's bad actors in the casino. It's a platform. It's an infrastructure, like we said. But it is where people can spend their time and do these things because of the speed, because of how fast the process is, because that can actually deploy. And, like obviously there was the base meme cycle as well. That was a lot, short-lived in Solana. And to see like how I don't mean disrespect to base. I also do a lot of stuff on base. I'm just saying that it's still, Solana is where consumers are, but we don't even want to use a consumer chain de facto because that can be taken a negative connotation. So I think end of the day, it's the responsibility of the community, to be honest. Like if we could do a poll and everyone like 10,000 viewers like James, this is the point that we want to get across to Wall Street. If you have any speaking engagements, like where you're going to be aired on Bloomberg or et cetera, or hey, we want to tell Kyle, can we please share these kinds of things? We think this might be best. I mean, it's a community effort, honestly, to get this messaging out there. Because what we have is, it's like your product is great. You know what it does. It just hasn't gotten that distribution to the mass retail yet because it's a bit newer, because it hasn't gotten those speaking engagements. But we can see from what BitMine and Tom Lee did, all it takes is one spark, one plug.
When's your Bloomberg thing air?
In a few hours, 9:30 p.m. Pacific time.
And you're live or it's already recorded?
It's already recorded.
How'd it go?
I think it went all right. Went through a few points. It's not as friendly and chill as a conversation as this, but I think we went over most of the things.
I think, dude, you're a pretty good talking head. I mean, you fucking well, I feel like you know ball, like you know the scene, you know what's going on, and you're like I don't know. Does Tom Lee know what Zora is? Maybe. I don't know. What are the odds on that, right? So I think you know ball and can do a good job. I'm gonna listen. I'm excited to listen. I guess one of the last things I want to ask you is how does this end? And I'll preface by saying that there's the CT story that this is basically how people think it's gonna go. Is there's gonna be more everyone's gonna raise a DAT for probably, I don't know, the top 100 coins on CoinMarketCap, top 50 probably. Make fair. And there's gonna be a ton of DATs, they're gonna raise a ton of money. Everyone's gonna lever up, cycle's gonna top, everyone's gonna trade below MNAV, below 1 MNAV or whatever. And then there's gonna be this like generational, it's gonna kill crypto for 2 years. There'll be this generational money on the floor opportunity where you can buy every asset for 30%, premium of below what market value is. That'll be the generational trade, and it's gonna be easy. CT's always right, so wipe up the floor, and then we'll run it back. How do you think this plays out? Like, are we just gonna fucking infinite flows? Like, how is it gonna play out? What does the top look like? How does it end? Is there a top? Like, how do you perceive this playing?
I want to give you the honest answer, and to all the listeners here, I have zero friggin' idea how this is gonna play out. All I know is we can control what we can control, and that is how we position ourselves and structure our vehicle. So that's how we structured it. Now, the more, I guess, degen answer and just thought processes here to go through is, in what part in life, like I'm, 29 years old. I've been in the cycle since 2017, been through 3-4 cycles. I haven't felt as much bearish sentiment on CT and in general, but with so much outsized opportunity and spark plugs that could ignite, like honestly, the largest transfer of wealth in like history, and financialization curve of Solana. So for me, it's, I think, more risk just to not be involved in a big way and be risk on at this stage of my life than to be looking in and saying, I'm going to take these hedge positions and risk, and then we'll trade and see what happens and maybe just put a small amount in. So I think that's why we're all skin in the game. Like beyond, like I'm already a founder in Solana. I think most of my capital is in it. And like I'm a true believer in getting this messaging out. Otherwise, like no one is forcing me to do a DAT, you
Yeah.
know. And honestly, I've been honored that all these supporters, like, you know, Para5 and Terra, all these guys that supported us, Rockaway X, some of the earliest investors in Solana, to believe us to sort of get this messaging out. So yeah, I'll say I have no idea how it's going to play out, but you can only control what you can control.
Honestly, I fuck with that answer, bro. You can only control you can control, and I think I don't know. I've had a bunch of DAT people on the stream now, and I like you. This was sick, man. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone.
Is there anything you wanted to say that I didn't ask you, or anything that's like really important to get across that we skipped?
I think everyone's a bit jaded in the last few months. Some might be feel burned out. There's been a lot of mini cycles in this very long cycle, but hey, I think we're only at the starting line right now. So maybe I'm just a little bit more optimistic because we've also just launched and we have a lot of plans ahead. But just in general,
It's just getting started. Hey, write down that silicone line. Go say that shit on fucking CNBC.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
telling you, yeah. All right, bro. Hey, have a good one. Thanks for coming.